Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm excited to bring you this video today. It's going to be a real tutorial on how to connect Cursor with N8N to generate automatic content. We'll even be setting up our very own API endpoints to scrape like a true pro. Have you ever wanted to write a list of posts reacting to a news article or blog post automatically? Or imagine taking any URL and being able to key in on only the main content and writing social media posts about it? You could create structured tweets automatically like this, including the articles that you're referencing, and have your own spin on how you want to react to it. Or taking any URL, such as this one, and enter it into your very own scraping website completely for free and getting all the data like this. And not only getting that data, but implementing that into an N8N automation. That is exactly what I'm going to be covering in today's video. So let's jump into it. Throughout my AI journey, I found myself signing up for a million different accounts and tools, paying 10 different subscriptions to various different sites to do exactly what I'm going to show you in this tutorial. And we're going to do it completely for free. I feel like every time I signed up for yet another subscription, the owners on the other end were like,
Uh, my wife might divorce me, but yeah, let's do it. Oh, yeah.
Excellent choice, Kevin. How much you want to go for this time?
So with that, the main goal of this project was to do it for as little money as possible with as little account setup as possible. And if I did have to set up an account, I wanted it to be as easy as it could. If you've been working with N8N, you'll know there's a ton of tools out there to connect, scrape, or do a number of different things. And they're all fighting for your money. And I'm honestly tired of paying. So take this blog article, for example. It's about the new GPT 4.5. This would be a great article to write posts about to gain some traction on social media, as it's kind of controversial and could get a lot of reaction. It's new, it's expensive, and it's interesting. So let's say you want to write 4 Twitter posts for this blog. Now, back in the olden days, you'd have to read this entire blog, formulate your own creative thoughts, and pump out tweets manually. Well, not anymore. I'm lazy and I want all my AI tools to do all the heavy lifting for me. We could get this URL and toss it in our very own cursor built scraping site like this and get all the contents. Copy this and paste it into ChatGPT for tweets. Or we could get even cooler and give this exact URL straight to N8N, and it can bring us to the promised land. Now, this N8N automation, through this HTTP request, accesses our web scraper that we built in Cursor, talks to it, gets all this data back from Cursor, goes to our Twitter analyst, writes tweets for us about that specific blog, and sends it to a Google Sheet to be stored. This Google Sheet stores a database of potential posts that we can have, and even the 4 that we just wrote, completely ready to go out onto social media. So with that, I want to show you exactly how I did it in this step-by-step tutorial. So stick around, and if you want any of the templates or code I'm about to show you, there will be a free link to a school community that I'm posting all this for free. So let's just jump right into it. So to do this, I'm going to start in Cursor, open a project, and I already had a blank folder ready to go for us. So I'll open that, and I'm going to paste in this custom prompt that I have. Now this prompt will be included in the templates that I include on my school community, and I'm going to be using the agent with Claude 3.7s on it. This prompt will set up our Next.js API, and we will be using Vercel for deployment. And I'll get into that a little bit more on why I chose Vercel. And if you don't know what that is, that's completely fine. It will also set up the homepage and proper package JSON dependencies. This prompt will set up 4 specialized API endpoints that will give it more of a robust nature to be able to accept multiple URL types and different kind of blogs or articles that you're going to be throwing at it. This will also handle endpoints for proper timeout handling. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, and return it in clean JSON so our N8N can handle it correctly. And I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Okay, and it says we're done here. It created a lot of files for us, set up the API endpoints for us, key features with the timeout handling, error handling, core support, clean, consistent JSON response format with a Vercel optimization. So if you haven't used Vercel before, don't worry, it's a pretty simple process. It's basically just a way to get this locally ran cursor script publicly available for external services like N8N, which is going to be hosted on the cloud for most of you, for them to be able to talk to each other correctly. Now, I have done this on a locally hosted N8N instance, but for the purpose of this video, I figured most everybody watching or just starting out is probably using N8N on the cloud, and this would be a lot more applicable to everyone. If you want to see how I did this on a locally ran N8N, let me know in the comments and I can do that as well. There was also a key decision between using Vercel or ngrok of they both allow external services to be accessed by applications that would otherwise only be available locally. The reason why I chose Vercel in this was because of the main goal of ease of setup, and with ngrok, I most likely would have to pay and have more of a setup process on the account side. So basically, in a nutshell, to boil that down, Vercel just gives me a URL that I will be able to post in my HTTP request for N8N to talk to it. And that is the whole point of our API setup. The next thing I'm going to do is set up my GitHub. Now, if you don't have a GitHub account, that's totally fine. Just set it up really quickly. It takes 5 seconds and it's completely for free. And I'm in the repositories, and I need to make a new repository for this web application that we're building. So I'll go in here, repository name, web scraper, this scrapes URLs. And I'm going to make this private. There's a chance I make this public and I just post it in a link in the description. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. And I'm not going to change any of that. And I'm going to create the repository. So here is the Git URL that I'm going to be sending to Cursor. So I'm going to copy that and go back to Cursor. And in Cursor, now I'm going to say, please write the Git commands, initialize new Git repository for this project. Do an initial connect to my remote GitHub here. So I'm going to paste that link in for the GitHub that I gave it and push everything to the main branch. And I'm going to send that. And if you don't know what GitHub is, it's basically a way to store your code, to store this exact snapshot of your code, and each Git commit will be like taking a snapshot of your code at that specific time and saving it for you. And also we're doing this because Vercel has a really easy integration with GitHub that will just make this whole process seamless. You'll see once we get into Vercel how easy this is. So I just gave GitHub my email and username, and that'll make it a little bit easier and make sure that we have seamless integration with Vercel. Okay, perfect. Now this says Web Scraper API project has been successful. Initialize the Git repository, configure with GitHub credentials. And it says Web Scraper API is now fully set up in version control and ready to be deployed to Vercel. Perfect. I'll accept all that. And I'm going to hop over to Vercel. So whenever you get into Vercel, you'll likely see something like this. However, right here will be kind of your login, most likely. And you'll log in with your GitHub that you just set up or that you already had. And you'll see all your GitHub repos right here. And you can see the one we just created 2 minutes ago. Before we do that, let's just go ahead and make sure that our project actually works. Let's go in here and just say works. We're going to do npm install. And you'll see it's kind of good to do this before we go to Vercel because the debugging pre-deployment is always way easier than getting into Vercel and then trying to go back and forth between the two. We're going to run this. There'll probably be some errors here again, but we will just go through it. Let's check this out. Okay, yeah, gotcha. So we actually have URL to scrape and the endpoint here. This is actually better than my original example a little bit, just to be able to toggle through these. We have documentation on how to use them. Yeah, this is perfect. Does it work? Just toss a quick URL in there, test scraper. Okay, so we can work on the formatting a little here, but I mean, this is perfect for what we want. I mean, this is all the data for the entire blog. Let's see if these other ones work. Okay, that works. These all work. Cool. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to Cursor. Make sure that pushed to GitHub. Okay. Word of these changes. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead back to GitHub, make sure that worked, refresh, and we see these all commits. So you can think of these commits as, like I said earlier, different save instances, and you can update what you changed. This is the initial commit, and then these are the last two that it did. It just had to do this twice because it didn't get this package lock JSON in there correctly the first time. So great, let's go ahead and go over to Vercel, and let's try and import this. Vercel 0.0, and let's deploy. All right, and we've got a deployment on in Vercel. Go to continue to dashboard. This will be the dashboard for your deployment here, which is pretty cool to see. Vercel is really nice laid out. I really like everything that they've done. Haven't used them too much, but this is great. And we have our domain here. And we can click this and go directly to our deployment. Perfect. So here's our deployment. Everything looks to be the same. So now that we have that set up, we can jump directly into N8N and start using this API endpoint that we just built. So first off, I'm just going to start with a click trigger just so we can get things tested. I will change it to a chat message once we have our HTTP request set up and make sure that it's working correctly. So we can go here to HTTP request, add that. And for this, it's going to be pretty simple. You're going to go directly to your cursor outputs and see how it wants you to format some of your URLs. So for the scrape endpoint, the simple endpoint, service endpoint, that's how it will be set up. Your Vercel domain .vercel.app/API/scrape. And then you will add the following URL to the end to test it. So I'm going to jump back to our website, copy my URL, go back to N8N, and paste this in there. And it was /API/scrape. And you can add query parameters here, do URL, and then you can paste a URL in here for testing purposes. Let's just grab this one, back to N8N, put it here, and test. Okay, and we got the desired output here. All right, we got the description, we got the content, we have the title, we have everything that we need here to formulate solid content. Cool. Now let's add an assistant here. I'm gonna do a message model, and I'm gonna add my account from list. I'm gonna use 3.5 turbo, and this text will act as your prompt. So I'm gonna write create for unique Twitter posts about this content, and then I'm gonna grab the content, put it in there, format, and then I'm gonna expand this, format your response as a JSON array with each tweet as a separate string like this. And I'll get into why I'm doing this after input it in here. Okay, so I just typed that out. I'm doing this because this will help our next steps a little bit easier to split these out into separate instances. So without this, it would just come out as one array and all the tweets would kind of be combined into one column within Google Sheets if that's where you want to put it, or if you want to send it to some other automation or send it straight out as a tweet, you'll be able to parse this way better and be able to actually use one tweet rather than sending out 4 tweets at once, if that makes any sense. So now I'm just going to give it some sort of direction on how to write them. Point of view of this is something sounds interesting. Blog. Obviously, you'll put whatever you kind of want in here. Site, quote, blog as well. Keep tweets short, the link. And then I'll toss in the link to the blog. And like I said, you can make this kind of whatever you want. This is just obviously not formatted the best and just kind of something for the tutorial here, but you get the concept. And then I'm just going to test step. Okay, and on this blog post, fascinating. He envisions future. It's pretty good. and we see we have our breaks here. So next here, I'm going to add a code node, and that's to break up these tweets into individual instances. So if you see here, we have one item, and then after this, we will have 4 separate tweets. And you can go into Claude, or you can just copy what I have here. You can go into Claude and say, can you parse a string of tweets into 4 separate instances in a code node in N8N? And it will probably put out something like this. You can totally copy this right here, and we'll test this step. Okay, now we have 4 items instead of our 1 item here, and it's 4 separate tweets here. And we can add our last node as a Google Sheets to store these. Google Sheets, I'm going to do an append row in Sheet, add my account, Sheet within document, Twitter posts. I'll hop over to Google Sheets real quick. So for the purpose of this tutorial, this is pretty cut and dry. I just have a column that says new post in a Google Sheets called Twitter posts. We'll need to make sure Twitter post is selected from Sheet. There's only one sheet, so there we go. Map each column, and then you will want to put the tweets in here, and we can go and test this step. We have 4 items there. Let's go back to our Google Sheets, and here are our tweets. So from here, you can really do anything with this list of items. You could skip the Google Sheets, have these on time scheduled to be posted. You can add them to a Google Sheet so you have a ton of them, and then pull from the Google Sheets and post them from there. The options are really endless. Obviously, this isn't just limited to Twitter. You can do LinkedIn, you can do blog posts, you can do anything you want to do with this sort of setup. And I thought it was pretty cool to be linking cursor with N8N and showing how to go through those steps. So guys, let's give it a chat message and give it a final run. Delete this. Open chat. Put that in there. And boom, go back to our Google Sheets, and we have 4 new posts with emojis. Awesome. So guys, if you found any value from this, if you like this video at all, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, join the school community if you want any of the templates to this, or if you want access to any of the past videos templates or the future templates. Join, shoot me a DM in there, or post on the discussion board. And if you have anything that you want to see in the future, drop it in the comments. And until then, see ya.